I came back from my business trip earlier than expected. My last meeting got canceled, so I grabbed a red-eye back from Denver, dreaming about surprising my wife with takeout from her favorite sushi spot and some overdue time together. What I walked into instead, that was a scene I'll never forget and one I'll never forgive. It was just after midnight when I pulled into our driveway. The lights were on, music thumped faintly through the windows, and there were high heels scattered right outside the front door. At first, I thought maybe Emily had some friends over. Harmless girls' night in, maybe? But then I noticed a pair of boxers tossed on the porch swing, and they weren't mine. I walked in without making a sound. Years of consulting taught me how to move silently when needed. The smell hit me first: tequila, perfume, and something else: sweat and regret. Laughter echoed from the living room. Then came the clink of glasses and moans. I froze in place. Peeking around the corner, I saw a scene that shredded me from the inside out. There she was, my wife, Emily, in our living room, wearing practically nothing but someone else's hands. She was on top of a guy I didn't recognize, straddling him like she'd done to me 100 times before. 3 other women were lounging on the couch, also barely dressed, and 2 more men were tangled between them. A full-blown adult party. In my ing house. They hadn't seen me yet. They laughed like demons, eyes glazed with liquor and sin. Emily tossed her head back and yelled, "Best night ever. He's not back till Thursday, so let's ing go wild." I remember her saying that word. Wild. It stuck in my ears like poison. And then my damn phone buzzed in my pocket. A simple notification from Delta Airlines about a flight credit. But it was loud enough to snap heads around. I stepped forward, sushi bag still in hand. "Hey, sweetheart." Surprise. They all froze. You'd think someone had pulled a fire alarm in the middle of hell. Faces went pale, mouths dropped. The room spun into chaos. Emily practically flew off the guy, tripping over the coffee table. One of her friends puked into a vase. The guy she was with scrambled for his jeans like they were made of gold. Emily's face was a horror movie. "Jason, I didn't know. Why are you?" I cut her off with a calm I didn't know I had. "Early flight. Meeting got canceled. Figured I'd come home to my wife. Guess I made a mistake." The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating. The guy she was grinding on, some dude with tattoos and a smug little smirk, stood up like he wanted to say something. I locked eyes with him and said, "Don't. Just don't." He sat back down like a scolded child. Emily pulled on a robe, still drunk, still shaking. "It's not what it looks like," she mumbled. "Really?" I laughed. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you invited the ing cast of a cheap adult film into my living room, while I was working 14-hour days to pay for this goddamn house." She stammered. "It was just a party. We drank too much. It wasn't supposed to get that far." "That far?" "Emily, you were on top of some guy. Half naked. In our house. On the couch we picked out together. While your friends were, what, cheerleading." One of her friends tried to sneak out. I slammed the door shut with my foot. "No. You all stay. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk." Emily turned defensive, ugly. "Don't act like you're some saint, Jason. You're never home. You're always working. What was I supposed to do? Sit here and wait for you like some obedient little housewife?" "No," I said slowly, voice shaking. "You were supposed to not screw strangers on our ing rug." The guy snorted. I snapped. I dropped the sushi on the floor, walked up to him, and punched him. Not hard. Not enough to break anything. Just enough to make a point. He hit the ground, curled up, and didn't move again. No one laughed after that. I turned to Emily. "I want every single one of them out of here in the next 5 minutes. Then we talk. And you better not lie to me again, Emily. Because you've got one chance left." She tried to look tough, but the mascara stains and trembling hands said otherwise. One by one, her friends filed out. Some cried. One cursed me under her breath. The tattooed guy limped past, muttering something about pressing charges. I didn't care. Let him. Emily stood in the kitchen, alone now, barefoot and humiliated. But I wasn't ready to listen to a damn thing she had to say, not yet. I just sat down on the couch where she'd defiled everything I thought we had, and stared at the floor. That's where I saw it, a used wrapper, shining under the lamp. That's when I realized it wasn't just a party. It was a series of betrayals, and it wasn't the first time. Not even close. She stood there for a moment, hugging herself, probably realizing there was no script for what came next. The woman who just an hour ago was moaning like she was on some cheap reality show now looked like a teenager caught sneaking out past curfew. But I wasn't in the mood for theatrics. I was in the mood for the truth. "You want to talk now?" she asked, voice soft, trying to sound like the Emily I used to love. I didn't answer. I just pointed to the coffee table. She sat down across from me, eyes darting everywhere but mine. "I didn't plan for it to be like this," she said. "I didn't know you'd be home." "You think that's the part that matters? Me being home?" She bit her lip. It was stupid. I was drunk. We all were. It started as just a fun night with the girls. "You always drink naked with strange men during girls' night?" That shut her up for a second. Then she had the nerve to sigh, like I was exhausting her. "I was lonely, Jason. You're always gone. You work like a machine. I feel like I'm invisible. And your solution to that was to throw an orgy in my living room?" My voice cracked, more from the betrayal than anger. "You know what I did this week? I slept 4 hours a night trying to land a deal so we could finally pay off your credit cards. While you were here, doing this." She leaned back, folding her arms. "You never asked me what I wanted. You never cared if I was happy." "I cared," I said quietly. "But I guess you needed someone else's hands to feel it." There was a pause. Then I asked the question I was afraid to ask, but had to anyway. "Was this the first time?" Her mouth opened, and that hesitation was all the answer I needed. I stood up and walked toward the bedroom. She followed. "Jason, wait." It wasn't serious. I didn't feel anything for him. It was just physical. "Oh, that's supposed to make me feel better?" I laughed bitterly. "You didn't even have the decency to lie convincingly." She grabbed my arm. "Don't walk away. Please. I made a mistake." I turned to face her. One night is a mistake. Multiple nights with multiple guys? That's not a mistake. That's a lifestyle. She flinched like I slapped her. I went to the closet and grabbed the suitcase I hadn't even unpacked yet. Threw in a few clothes, my toothbrush, my passport. It wasn't a dramatic exit, just necessary. She stood in the doorway, silent now, like she finally understood this wasn't a scene she could cry her way out of. "Where are you going?" "I don't know. Somewhere that doesn't reek of betrayal." "You're really leaving? After everything?" I zipped the suitcase. "No. I'm leaving because of everything." She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stood there with that cold, guilty look, like I'd interrupted her little fantasy world, and now the game was over. But it wasn't over. Not yet. I stopped at the front door and turned around. "Who else, Emily?" Her eyes widened. "What? Who else have you been with?" She stammered, turned red, then pale, then whispered, "I don't know." I almost dropped the bag. "You don't know." "I didn't keep count," she said, like it was nothing. It wasn't like that. They didn't mean anything. The rage hit me like a freight train. I clenched my fists, trying not to scream. My knuckles were white. "How many of them were in our bed?" She looked down. That was all I needed. I didn't slam the door behind me. I didn't scream or cry. I just left. I drove aimlessly for hours. Ended up sleeping in the car that night, parked in the back of some 24-hour diner. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, laughing, moaning, dancing in our home, while I was 1,000 miles away, thinking she missed me. The betrayal burned through my chest like acid. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I wasn't just angry. I was gutted. I gave this woman everything. My time, my love, my trust. And she gave her body to strangers like it was some damn party favor. And the worst part? I still missed her. That made me hate myself more than I hated her. But hate, it's a hell of a motivator. I stayed away for 3 days. Not that she reached out. No desperate voicemails, no apologetic texts. Just radio silence. Like she didn't care if I ever came back. I checked our home security cameras remotely on the second night. She'd shut them off. Disconnected the Wi-Fi. That alone told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't guilt. It was strategy. On the third day, I came back. Not to make peace. Not to forgive. I came back to dig. The house was clean. Too clean. Candles lit. Fresh flowers on the table. Not a trace of that night left. She was playing perfect little housewife again, like she hadn't turned my life into a battlefield. She wore a sundress, no makeup, just like when we first met. She was trying to rewind time with a costume. "Jason," she said softly, like I was some fragile animal she didn't want to spook. "I've been waiting for you. Cut the act." Her face tightened. "I deserve that. You deserve worse." I went upstairs. She followed, of course, asking me to talk, telling me she loved me, that she'd been confused, that it all happened because I'd been emotionally distant. blaming me like she hadn't been throwing herself at strangers like a damn coupon. I opened her drawer, found a second phone, burner phone, locked. I held it up. You forgot to hide this. She tried to snatch it from me, but I pulled back. I'm done being your fool. I'm not lying anymore, Jason, I swear. I was going to throw that away. I powered it on. The messages hit like bullets. Can't wait to feel you again, baby. He's gone till Thursday. Let's go round 3. Your mouth is insane. Better than anything I ever had. You wore that pink thing like I asked. Damn. There were dozens. Pictures. Videos. None of them of me. She stood frozen as I scrolled through her personal cesspool. Her eyes darted, searching for a lie that could save her. But there was nothing left to say. You disgust me, I whispered. I let you into every part of my life. I gave you loyalty you didn't earn. And you gave yourself to whoever asked nice enough. Her expression flipped again, that fake remorse vanishing in an instant. Her jaw clenched. Her voice turned sharp. You think you're perfect? You're boring. Predictable. I was dying in this marriage. You only came home when you had to, never when I needed you. I stared at her like she'd grown horns. You needed me? You needed me while you were sucking off guys from your yoga class. She slapped me. Not a light one. A full, open palm crack across the cheek. And just like that, the mask shattered. I should have left you a year ago, she hissed. But I stayed because you're safe. You're dumb. You're easy. You don't ask questions. I had freedom. I stepped back. Not from the hit, from the truth. I hope it was worth it, I said. Because you've lost everything. No, she smirked. I still have the house. Your money. Your dumb little loyalty. You think you're walking away clean? You're not. You'll be the sad, divorced loser with nothing. She was bluffing, but she believed her own lies. Check the prenup, I said, dead calm. That wiped the smile off her face. I signed it under duress. You signed it in Cancun, drunk on mojitos, telling everyone how you scored a guy with a future. There's video. Remember Steve? Your cousin? He filmed the whole thing. She blinked. Hard. Everything you did, I said, is going to court. I have the phone, the messages, the surveillance from before you disabled it. I'm done being your wallet. I'm done being your safe bet. You're going to walk away from this with nothing but a reputation. She laughed. Nervous, desperate. You think anyone's going to believe you? I'll say you hit me. I'll say you threatened me. I'll cry in front of a judge and tell them you were never home. I'll tell them the truth, I said. And I'll show them everything. The court doesn't love liars, Emily. And you? You're a masterpiece of deceit. She screamed. Screamed like a banshee, slamming her fist on the dresser. Threw a perfume bottle at the wall. She wanted control, and it was slipping. Fast. I walked out without another word. Not a glance back. That night, I slept like a man who had been drowning for years and finally found dry land. The grief didn't hit me right away. That would come later. For now, there was only one thing I felt. Freedom. The silence after leaving her behind was louder than anything I'd ever heard. No buzzing phone, no shallow apologies, no lies twisted into lullabies. Just the hum of my own breathing in the empty space where a marriage used to be. I moved into a furnished apartment on the other side of town. Cold walls, no photos, no memories. It felt sterile, lifeless, but clean. Clean of her scent, her chaos, her poison. I needed that. 2 weeks passed. Emily didn't try to contact me. No calls. No texts. Not even an email. That hurt more than I expected. It told me she never cared about me. Not really. I'd been a placeholder. A paycheck with a ring. A man to pose beside at dinners and post about online, while she was busy chasing whatever thrill filled the void I could never reach. But then the silence broke. I was having a coffee late one evening, reading through legal documents with my lawyer on speaker, when a message popped up on my laptop. An unknown email address. Subject: You don't know everything. Body: Jason, you should know your wife wasn't just cheating. She was selling. Check the attached file. My blood turned ice. I didn't want to click. Every instinct told me to delete it, to pretend it was spam or someone messing with me. But curiosity, that horrible need to know everything, took over. I opened it. Photos. Screenshots of messages. Emily. Different men. Payments. Venmo receipts labeled with innocent phrases: yoga class, nails, book club. But the pattern was clear. Same guys. Same timestamps. And a note scrawled in one screenshot. 300 for the night. Discreet. She wasn't just cheating. She was turning our house into a playground for rent. I felt physically sick. Not just for me, for the memories. For every time I kissed her, slept beside her, held her thinking I was the only one. For every dinner we ate at that kitchen table while she stared into my eyes, pretending. I sent the files to my lawyer. I didn't even write a message. Just attached them and pressed send. Then I slammed my laptop shut and poured myself a drink, something I rarely did. But that night, I needed it. The next day, the knock came. Not from her. From a man in a cheap suit with sunken eyes and a nervous twitch. "Are you Jason Miller?" he asked. "Depends who's asking. I'm Officer Daniels. Vice Unit. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your wife." I laughed. Actually laughed. "She's not my wife. Not anymore." He raised an eyebrow. "That may simplify things." Apparently, Emily's name had popped up in an investigation. She wasn't running a one-woman show. She was part of a larger ring. Not officially, more like freelance, but under the protection of someone bigger. A man who didn't like attention. A man who found out she was reckless. "Is she in danger?" I asked, before I could stop myself. He didn't answer. Just handed me a card and told me to call if I remembered anything useful. That night, she called. For the first time in weeks, her name lit up my screen. I stared at it, thumb hovering. I shouldn't have answered. But I did. "Jason." Her voice was broken, like wine through shattered glass. "What do you want, Emily?" I messed up. I messed up bad. They're watching me. I think they followed me today. I'm not your lifeline anymore. "Please," she whispered. "You don't understand. These people, if I don't pay them back." "Pay them back? For what? You mean the money you made turning our house into a brothel?" She sobbed. It sounded real. But so did everything else, once. "They said if I don't find the money, they'll come for me. Or worse. You should call the police." I did. That's why they're angrier. They think I talked. I didn't, Jason. I swear I didn't. I wanted to hang up. I wanted to erase her voice from my life. But then she said it. "They said they'd come after you, too." And suddenly, the story wasn't just mine anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid. I'd faced fear before, in darker places, in colder rooms. But this was different. This was personal. This was someone dragging me into a nightmare I never signed up for, after already shattering every piece of who I was. I sat by the window with the lights off, watching the street outside. Every pair of headlights that slowed near the building made my fingers twitch. I kept the burner phone Emily had used, now in my drawer. Every few minutes, I stared at it like it was going to ring, like the truth might evolve even further, uglier, deeper. Around 4 a.m., my apartment buzzer screamed through the silence. I didn't move right away, just stared at the speaker on the wall. Then it buzzed again. I got up slowly, grabbing the Glock I hadn't touched in years from the safe. Old habit. I bought it after a break-in at our old place, and Emily used to mock me for it. "We're not in a war zone," she used to say. Turns out, we were. I just didn't know it yet. I pressed the intercom button. "Who is it?" Silence. "Who is it?" A voice crackled through, low and tired. "It's me. Emily." I should have left her out there. But something about her tone, she didn't sound like the same person. No arrogance. No attitude. Just fear, thin and raw. I buzzed her in and waited by the door, gun hidden behind the coat rack. She came up fast, too fast. When she stepped into the light, I barely recognized her. Hair in a messy bun, no makeup, a bruise under her left eye, and a cut on her lip. Clothes wrinkled like she'd slept in an alley. The look of someone running from wolves. "They came to the house," she whispered. "They trashed everything." "Good," I said flatly. "Maybe they left it cleaner than you did." She didn't laugh, didn't flinch, just walked in like a ghost and sat on the edge of the couch. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad," she said. "I was stupid. I thought I was in control. You weren't even in control of your own dignity." Her eyes stayed low. "I owe them money. A lot. They fronted me clients. Told me I could pay it back over time. Like a drug dealer fronts a junkie," I muttered. "They said they'd forgive the debt if I got them something else. A name. An asset. Someone valuable." Don't even finish that sentence. "I told them no," she said quickly. I swear I did. I stood in front of her, heart pounding. "What do you want from me, Emily?" "I don't know," she said, voice cracking. "I just didn't know where else to go." That was a lie. She had a dozen men she could have run to. The only reason she was here was because I was the only one who'd ever cared enough to listen. But I wasn't that man anymore. I paced the room. She watched me like she was waiting for a verdict. I thought about all the ways I could destroy her life the way she destroyed mine. But revenge? It suddenly felt small. She was already ruined. There was no pride left to take from her. I'll help you, I said finally. But not because I still give a damn about you. I'm doing this because if those people come after me, I need to know what I'm dealing with. She nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me. There's one condition. What? When this is over, I never see you again. Not in court. Not in public. Not in my nightmares. You disappear. Her lips trembled, but she agreed. We spent the next hour going through her contacts, the coded messages, the locations she'd used, everything. I wrote it all down. And for the first time, I saw her without the mask. Not seductive. Not cruel. Just broken. And pathetic. Around sunrise, I told her to get some sleep on the couch. I didn't trust her in my bedroom. I watched her curl up under a throw blanket, eyes fluttering shut as if she hadn't slept in days. And for a moment, the strangest thing happened. I pitied her. That feeling lasted until my phone buzzed again. A video. No message. Just a clip. Her. At a party. Not the one I'd walked in on. A different one. Older. She was laughing, grinding on another man, while someone in the background yelled her name and tossed money. I looked over at her sleeping on the couch, and the pity burned away. I didn't wake her. I just sat there and stared at her, the woman I'd married, now curled up on my couch like some stray I was too kind to throw back out into the storm she created. The video still played in my hand, looping, echoing with her laughter. That fake, high-pitched laugh she used when she was trying to be someone else. Someone she never showed me. The man in the video? He wasn't anyone I recognized. Some bald guy in his 40s with a gold chain and no shirt, holding a cigar and slapping her on the ass like she was property. She didn't flinch. She liked it. I pressed pause and closed the file. My stomach was tight, heart drumming like I'd run a marathon. I had reached that part of heartbreak where even the sadness was gone. Just clarity now. Cold, sharp, surgical clarity. This woman didn't fall into bad choices. She chose this. Repeatedly. Sunlight crept in through the blinds, highlighting her face, smeared mascara, dry lips, bruised cheek. She looked peaceful, which pissed me off more than anything. How could she sleep while I was unraveling every truth we ever shared? Around 7 a.m., I called Officer Daniels. I have something you'll want to see, I said. We agreed to meet in a parking lot near an old gas station an hour later. I left Emily on the couch, still unconscious, and took her burner phone and my own with me. He was already there, leaning against his unmarked car with a black coffee and the look of a man who'd seen one too many ruined lives. I showed him the screenshots, the video, the payment logs. His eyes didn't blink once. She's deeper in than I thought, he said. The guy in the video, that's Roy Slim Gerard. Mid-level dealer. Muscle for the Pescado crew. He's not the kind of guy who likes being on camera. She's connected to him? She was. His voice dropped. He's dead. I froze. What? Found in a warehouse 3 days ago. Shot twice in the face. No witnesses. Your wife's name came up during the sweep. She was seen with him 2 weeks before his death. Everything started to click. The fear in her voice. The bruises. The way she kept saying they were coming. You think she's next? I asked. He nodded. They think she flipped. If she runs, she's dead. If she talks, she's dead faster. And if she stays with me? You. He raised a brow. Then you're in the blast radius. I didn't answer. Just stared at the ground. She needs protection, he said. No, I replied. She needs to face the fire she lit. I left without shaking his hand. He didn't stop me. When I got back to the apartment, she was gone. At first, I thought maybe she went out to get food or air. But something felt off. The blanket was on the floor. The door was ajar. My Glock, the one I had hidden behind the coat rack, was missing. I searched the place. Nothing else taken. Her phone was gone too. Only one thing left behind. A note scribbled on the back of a grocery receipt. I had to go. I'm going to fix this. I'm sorry I dragged you into it. I really did love you. Once. That word. It sat in my chest like a nail. I called her number. Straight to voicemail. I tracked the burner, turned off. Gone again. Like smoke. I should have felt relieved. Instead, all I felt was something I didn't want to admit. Worry. Not because I still loved her, that was long dead, but because I wanted her to face consequences. Not vanish into the dark like some twisted ghost. She didn't get to walk away untouched. She didn't get to leave scars on me and disappear into the fog. No, this wasn't over. And if she wouldn't bring justice to herself, then maybe I would. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. The office, the emails, the meetings, they all felt like a different lifetime. A place where I used to pretend things made sense, where I believed people played by some invisible rules. That world was gone now. Instead, I sat with a cup of black coffee, bitter as my thoughts, and tried to figure out what the hell to do next. Emily was gone, maybe on the run, maybe already dead. I didn't know what fixing it meant, but if it involved a Glock and street-level criminals, it wouldn't end in redemption, it would end in headlines. I didn't want to care, but I still did. God, I hated that I still did. By late afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. No caller ID. Just a single message. Heard you've been asking questions, Mr. Miller. Stop. That was it. No threats. No names. Just a warning. Clean. Cold. Final. I read it 5 times, then threw the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. I didn't even flinch. They knew my name. They knew where I lived. I called Daniels. They're on to me. I figured they would be. You're not exactly quiet. Any idea where she went? A pause. Yeah, he said. She reached out to me last night. Wanted to talk. Set up a meet. When? Tonight. My chest tightened. You going? I was. Until she went dark again. Meeting's off. I'm guessing they found out. Where was it supposed to be? He sighed. Jason. Where? Abandoned motel off Route 6. Old Desert View Inn. She picked it. I hung up. That place was a relic. A forgotten spot for people who wanted to stay invisible. The perfect place to disappear or be disappeared. It was already dark by the time I pulled into the lot. One flickering neon letter still hung above the office door, STY, which felt more like a warning than an invitation. I parked far from the entrance and walked the rest of the way. No cars. No lights. Just wind, dust, and the sound of a loose door creaking somewhere. Room 14 had a light under the door. I approached slow, hand on my backup piece, the old revolver I hadn't used in years. Not flashy, not fast, but reliable. I knocked once. No answer. Knocked again. Emily. Still nothing. I reached for the knob, unlocked. The door creaked open, and the smell hit me first. Blood, gunpowder, sweat. Then I saw her, sitting on the edge of the bed. Alive. Barely. She was pale, hands shaking, holding my Glock in both fists. Her eyes were red, but not from crying. From rage. Close the door, she said quietly. I did. She didn't look up. They came early. I was supposed to meet one of them. Just talk. Tell them I was done. But it wasn't him who showed up. I looked around. Empty bottles. A man's wallet on the floor. A bloodstain near the bathroom. Where is he? She didn't answer right away. Then pointed. I followed her finger. Bathroom. There he was face down, pool of blood under his head. One shot, clean through. She'd done it. Jesus, Emily. He was going to kill me. Said they knew I'd been talking to cops. Said I had to disappear. So you killed him? I didn't aim. I just reacted. He pulled. I pulled faster. I stared at her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't broken. She was calm. Too calm. Like she'd already made peace with what came next. You need to leave, she said. Right now. You were never here. You don't know anything. I can't just leave you with a body. You have to. Why? Because the second I call Daniels, he's going to think you helped. And they'll come for you harder than they came for me. Why should I care? You destroyed my life. She finally looked up. I know. And I'm sorry. I was selfish. Stupid. I let people in who should have stayed out. I lied. I betrayed you. But right now, I'm trying to save you. Let me do one *******ing thing right. I didn't move. Just stared at the wreckage of a woman I once thought I'd grow old with. Her voice, her face, her smell, all poison now. I couldn't untangle the memories from the horror. But part of me still wanted to believe she meant it. That maybe, just maybe, there was one shard of truth left inside her. So I nodded, turned around, and left. Not for her. For me. I drove for hours after leaving that motel. No destination, no plan. Just highways and silence. The farther I got, the less real any of it felt, like it was someone else's life unraveling behind me, not mine. But every mile marker, every turn in the road reminded me this wasn't fiction. This was my wife. My home. My past. All burned to ash. Emily turned herself in the next day. I watched it on the news, grainy footage of her in cuffs, head down, escorted by 2 officers through the station entrance. No makeup. No performance. Just the shell of a woman who'd finally run out of lies to wear. They pinned 2 charges on her, obstruction, and manslaughter. The crew she worked with? Gone underground. Some arrested. Some vanished. The man she killed had a record long enough to stretch across the border. Her self-defense plea stuck. Barely. She took a deal. 5 years. No parole for 3. That was the last I ever heard from her. No letters. No apologies. No desperate last-minute calls to rekindle anything that was long, long dead. I changed apartments. Sold the house. Quit my job. Took a consulting gig overseas, mostly remote. Less people. Fewer reminders. More peace. But the scars? They stayed. The first time I tried dating again, I flinched when someone picked up my phone without asking. The second time, I ended it before it could even begin, because I couldn't stop comparing her voice to Emily's. That laugh. That damn manipulative laugh. But healing doesn't come in waves. It comes in pieces. One morning I woke up and realized I hadn't thought of Emily in 2 whole days. Another day, I found myself laughing genuinely over dinner with someone kind. Someone honest. And little by little, I stopped bleeding. Looking back, I learned 3 things. First, if your gut tells you something's off, it is. Don't wait for the knife to hit bone before you believe it. Second, love doesn't excuse betrayal. Real love doesn't survive on second chances. It survives on trust. And once that's gone, no amount of memories can fix it. And third, never ignore red flags just because they're wrapped in something beautiful. Emily was stunning, enchanting, addictive, but she was also a liar, a destroyer, and in the end, a cautionary tale. If you're reading this and you've been hurt like I was, if you've been lied to, betrayed, blindsided, let me tell you this. You are not weak for loving someone who didn't deserve it, but you are strong for walking away. And the day you stop looking back, that's the day you start really living again. I'm not the same man I was when I walked in on that party. I'm better. Colder, maybe. Wiser, definitely. But most of all, free.